The emergency room doors swung open with a sharp crack that cut through the chaos like a blade. Every conversation stopped. Every head turned. And there she stood, Corporal Elena Vasquez, RN. In brand new scrubs that still had the packaging creases, boots polished to a mirror shine. Spine straight as a flagpole standing at rigid attention in the middle of the trauma bay. The other nurses exchanged glances. Someone snickered. Another whispered just loud enough. Is she serious right now? But Elena didn't move. Didn't blink. Her eyes were locked on the gurney being wheeled through those doors, on the gray-haired man strapped to it, unconscious, bleeding and wearing the unmistakable insignia of a Marine Corps commander. What happened next would silence that entire hospital, shake a community to its core, and remind everyone in that room what true honor looks like. Because when that commander's eyes finally opened and met hers, he did something that no one expected. Something that made hardened doctors freeze mid-step and brought a 27-year veteran nurse to tears. He returned her salute. Elena had been in civilian nursing for exactly 11 days. 11 days since she'd hung up her uniform for the last time at Camp Pendleton. 11 days since she'd traded the structured predictability of military medicine for the organized chaos of Sacred Heart Medical Center in Oceanside, California. 11 days of feeling like a foreigner in her own country. The transition had been harder than 2 deployments to Afghanistan combined. In the Corps. Everything made sense. There was a chain of command, a protocol for every situation, a language everyone spoke. When someone said stat, they meant it. When you called for backup, it arrived. When you lost a patient, the whole unit felt it together, processed it together, moved forward together. Here she was just the new girl. The one who kept calling the attending physician sir and standing up straight whenever someone senior entered the room. The one who couldn't seem to understand that lunch breaks were sacred and that you didn't volunteer for extra shifts during your first week. You're not in the military anymore. Sweetie. Brenda from the day shift had told her on day 3, voice dripping with condescension. Brenda had been at Sacred Heart for 19 years and ruled the nurses' station like a fiefdom. We do things differently here. You might want to, relax a little. Blend in. But Elena didn't know how to blend in. Didn't know how to be anything other than what 8 years in the Navy Nurse Corps had made her. Precise, disciplined, mission-focused. She'd held dying Marines in her arms in a field hospital outside Kandahar. She'd performed emergency tracheotomies in the back of moving trucks. She'd worked 72-hour shifts during a mass casualty event that left her hands shaking. For a week afterward, and now she was being mocked for standing up. Straight. Check out G.I. Jane over there, she'd heard one of the Ortegs say. During her second shift. Think she's gonna salute the vending machine next? The laughter that followed had burned worse than any wound she'd treated overseas. But Elena had learned a long time ago that the opinion of people who'd never served didn't carry much weight. Her father, a Vietnam vet who'd come home to protesters spitting on him, had taught her that. You hold your head high, he'd told her when she enlisted. You do your duty. And you never ever apologize for honoring those who've worn the uniform. So, when the call came over the radio that Tuesday afternoon, incoming trauma. Motor vehicle versus pedestrian. 64-year-old male, military ID on scene. Ada 3 minutes. Elena didn't think. She just moved. She was setting up the trauma bay when Brenda appeared at her elbow. Military ID doesn't mean anything, Brenda said, snapping on gloves. Could be retired. Could be stolen. Could be some wannabe who bought a jacket at the surplus store. Don't go getting all weepy and patriotic on us. Elena's jaw tightened, but she said nothing. She checked the 4 lines, prepped the crash cart, laid out the intubation equipment with the same meticulous care she'd used 1,000 times before. Then the doors exploded inward. The paramedics were shouting vitals. But Elena's focus narrowed to the man on the gurney. Mid-60s. Gray hair cropped military short, despite being matted with blood. Strong build going soft with age, but still carrying the bearing of someone who'd spent a lifetime in service. And On his tactical jacket, worn but well-maintained, the insignia that made her heart stutter. Marine Corps. Commander. Rank. She saw the wedding ring on his left hand, scratched and dented from decades of wear. Saw the tattoo on his forearm, USMC, with an eagle, globe, and anchor. Saw the medical alert bracelet that read PTSD veteran. And without thinking, without planning, without considering the consequences, Elena snapped to attention. It was pure muscle memory. 8 years of training taking over her civilian body like a possession. Feet together, shoulders back, chin level, eyes forward. Right hand rising in a crisp salute that would have made her drill instructor weep with pride. The trauma bay went silent. Dr. Reeves, the attending physician, stopped mid-sentence. The paramedics froze in the act of transferring the patient. Even Brenda's mouth hung open in shock. "What the hell are you doing?" Brenda hissed. But Elena didn't move, didn't lower her hand. Her eyes were on the commander, unconscious, battered, bleeding from a head wound that painted the left side of his face crimson. He'd been hit crossing the street, the paramedics had said. Driver didn't stop. Witness said he'd been coming from the VA clinic 3 blocks away. Vasquez. Dr. Reeves barked. "This isn't a parade ground. We have a patient dying. Move." The spell broke. Elena dropped her salute and dove into action, helping transfer the commander to the trauma bed, cutting away his jacket and shirt, starting a second 4 line while calling out vitals in the clear, clipped tone that came naturally to her. But the damage was done. For the next 20 minutes, while they worked to stabilize their patient, controlling the bleeding, intubating him, running CT scans to check for brain injury, Elena felt the weight of judgment pressing down on her like a physical thing. The whispers started before they'd even gotten him stable. "Did you see that? Standing at attention in the middle of a trauma. What is she thinking? This isn't the military. That man is a patient, not a commanding officer. Someone needs to have a talk with her about professional boundaries." Elena kept her head down and her hands steady. The commander, his chart said Lieutenant Commander James Robert Holland, OSMC, RET, had a subdural hematoma, 3 broken ribs, and a shattered collarbone. But he was stable. He was alive. And that was all that mattered. They transferred him to ICU 3 hours later. Elena's shift ended at 7, but she stayed until 9, volunteering to help with the backlog in the ER. When she finally headed to the locker room, she found Brenda waiting for her. "That was embarrassing," Brenda said without preamble. "For all of us. Dr. Reeves wants to see you tomorrow before your shift. I'd suggest you think long and hard about whether you're actually ready for civilian medicine." Elena met her eyes. That man has given more for this country than most people can imagine. He deserved to be acknowledged. He deserved to be treated, Brenda shot back. Which you delayed with your little military theater. You want to honor veterans? Do your job. Save lives. Leave the flag waving for the politicians. She left before Elena could respond. Elena sat in her car in the parking lot for 20 minutes, hands gripping the steering wheel, trying to decide if she'd made a terrible mistake. Maybe she wasn't cut out for this. Maybe the gap between military medicine and civilian healthcare was just too wide. Maybe she should have stayed in, should have taken that offer to extend her contract, should have. Her phone buzzed. A text from her father. "How's the new job? Making us proud?" She stared at those words for a long time. Then she drove home, showered, fell into bed, and dreamed of Kandahar, of the young lance corporal who'd held her hand while she worked to save his leg, who'd looked up at her with tears streaming down his face and said, "Thank you for being here, ma'am. Thank you for serving." She woke up knowing she'd made the right call. The meeting with Dr. Reeves the next morning was exactly as uncomfortable as she'd anticipated. He was a good doctor, sharp, efficient, genuinely cared about his patients. But he'd never served. Never understood that some bonds transcend professional boundaries. "Elena, I respect your service," he said, leaning back in his office chair. "I really do. But this hospital has protocols. Standards of behavior. When we're treating a patient, we're treating a patient. Their background, their profession, their service, none of that matters in the moment. All that matters is the medicine. With respect, sir, doctor, I disagree, Elena said quietly. Everything about who that man is matters. His service shaped his body, his health, his trauma responses. The fact that he's a veteran with PTSD changes how we should communicate with him, how we should approach his care, what resources we should connect him with. Ignoring his service doesn't make us more professional. It makes us less effective. Dr. Reeves studied her for a long moment. You saluted an unconscious man in the middle of a trauma bay. Yes, sir. I did. Why? Elena chose her words carefully. Because he couldn't return it. Because he was vulnerable and injured and alone. Because every Marine I ever served with understood that you never leave someone behind. Because every Marine I ever served with understood that you never leave someone behind. And that includes leaving behind the respect they've earned. I would do it again. Even if it costs you this job? Even then. The silence stretched between them like a minefield. Finally, Dr. Reeves sighed. You're a good nurse, Elena. Great clinical skills. Strong instincts. Excellent under pressure. But you need to understand that this isn't the military. We have different rules here. Different expectations. I'm going to give you a warning this time. But if there's another incident like yesterday, any incident where personal feelings override professional protocol, we're going to have a much harder conversation. Are we clear? Crystal, doctor. Good. Get to work. Elena spent the rest of her shift feeling like she was walking on glass. Every interaction was measured, careful, professional, to the point of coldness. She didn't stand up when senior staff entered the room. Didn't use military time when recording patient notes. Didn't let herself show any emotion when a 22-year-old Army vet came in with a drug overdose and she had to pump his stomach while he screamed at her. By the time her shift ended, she felt hollowed out. Empty. She was changing in the locker room when Sarah Kim, one of the younger nurses, approached her. Sarah had been kind since day one, offering to show Elena the ropes, defending her when others made jokes, generally being the only friendly face in a sea of skepticism. Hey, Sarah said softly. I heard about the meeting with Reeves. That sucks. It's fine, Elena said automatically. I'll adjust. You shouldn't have to. Sarah glanced toward the door, making sure they were alone. My brother's in the army, deployed to Syria 2 years ago. When he came home, he was different. Angry all the time. Couldn't sleep. Started drinking. My parents didn't know how to help him. But there was this one nurse at the VA who got it. Who treated him like he mattered, not just like another patient. That nurse saved his life. Elena's throat tightened. Sarah, what you did yesterday. Sarah continued. That meant something. Maybe not to Brenda or Reeves or the others who've never served and never had anyone close to them serve. But to that commander? When he wakes up and someone tells him that a nurse stood at attention for him, that's going to matter. That's going to remind him that people still care, still remember, still honor what he gave. If he wakes up, Elena said quietly. He will. Because you're going to make sure of it. Elena didn't know what to say to that. So she just nodded, grabbed her bag, and headed out. She stopped by the ICU on her way to the parking lot. Told herself she was just checking on a patient, doing her due diligence, making sure the handoff to night shift had gone smoothly. But really, she just needed to see him. Commander Holland looked smaller in the hospital bed, surrounded by machines and tubes and monitors that beeped out the steady rhythm of his heart. The swelling on his face had gone down slightly. The bleeding had stopped. His chart showed stable vital signs, good neurological responses, optimistic prognoses. But he hadn't woken up yet. Elena stood in the doorway for a long moment, watching the rise and fall of his chest. Wondering about his life. Had he seen combat? Led men into battle? Held dying soldiers the way she had? Did he have nightmares? Did he struggle to adjust to civilian life? Did people thank him for his service and then forget about him the moment he walked away? You can go in, you know, the ICU nurse said, making Elena jump. if you want to sit with him for a minute. His daughter won't be here until tomorrow. Flight from Seattle gets in at 9. I shouldn't, Elena said. I'm not assigned to this unit. But you brought him in. And from what I heard, you're the only one who treated him like he mattered. Elena felt her eyes burn. She blinked hard. I just did what anyone should do. But they didn't. You did. Elena found herself walking into that room, pulling up a chair next to Commander Holland's bed, sitting down with her hands folded in her lap like she was reporting for duty. I don't know if you can hear me, sir, she said quietly, but I wanted you to know that you're not alone, that people are fighting for you, that your service, everything you gave, everything you sacrificed, it's not forgotten. Not by everyone. Not by me. The machines beeped. The ventilator hissed. Commander Holland didn't move, but Elena sat there anyway, keeping watch the way she'd kept watch over wounded Marines in field hospitals half a world away. Because that's what you did. That's what honor demanded. She sat there for an hour before finally forcing herself to leave. The next 3 days passed in a blur of shifts and sleep and trying to find her footing, in a world that felt increasingly foreign. The whispers about her incident in the trauma bay had spread through the hospital like wildfire. Some people were sympathetic. Most were dismissive. A few were openly hostile. Military nurses, she overheard one of the ocs saying in the break room. They're so rigid. Can't adapt to the real world. Give me someone who went to a civilian nursing school any day. Elena had walked out before she said something that would definitely get her fired. But Sarah kept her grounded. And so did the updates on Commander Holland. He was improving steadily. Extubated on day 2. Moved from ICU to a regular room on day 3. His daughter had arrived and spent every moment at his bedside, reading to him, talking to him, playing the country music he apparently loved, but he still hadn't fully woken up. His eyes would open sometimes, track movement, show signs of awareness. But he wasn't responsive. Wasn't speaking. The neurologist was cautiously optimistic but concerned about the length of his unconsciousness. Elena checked on him every shift, always finding an excuse to walk past his room, to glance through the window, to confirm he was still breathing. His daughter caught her once, stepped into the hallway, and introduced herself. I'm Jessica, she said, shaking Elena's hand. You're the nurse who saluted him, who stood at attention in the ER. Elena's stomach dropped. I'm sorry if that upset you. I didn't mean to. Upset me? Jessica's eyes filled with tears. It's the most beautiful thing anyone's done for him in years. Do you know how many people see his service now? How many people see the tattoo, the jacket, the bearing, and just look right through him? Like he's invisible? Like those years meant nothing? They meant everything, Elena said fiercely. I know. You know, but the world? Jessica shook her head. The world forgets. They thank veterans on holidays and then ignore them the other 364 days. My dad struggles with that. With feeling like everything he gave just ... vanished. Like it didn't matter. It mattered. Thank you for reminding him. Even if he couldn't see it in that moment, I know he felt it. I know some part of him understood that someone still honored what he gave. They talked for another 20 minutes. Elena learned that Commander Holland, call him Jim, everyone does, had served for 32 years. Multiple deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan. Led a battalion in Fallujah during the worst of the fighting. Came home with shrapnel scars, PTSD, and a Purple Heart he kept in a drawer because he said the real heroes didn't come home. He'd retired 5 years ago and struggled every day since. The VA had helped. The support groups had helped. But the hardest part, Jessica said, was the feeling of purposelessness, of being forgotten. He was crossing the street coming from the VA, Jessica explained. He goes there twice a week for therapy. For community. It's the only place where he feels like people understand him. And some asshole in a BMW ran a red light and hit him and just kept going. Did they catch the driver? Not yet. But they will. Jessica's jaw set in a way that reminded Elena eerily of her father's expression when he talked about his service. And when they do, I hope they throw the book at him, leaving the scene of an accident. Hit and run. Whatever sticks. Elena hopes so too. On the fourth day, everything changed. Elena was working the morning shift, dealing with the usual chaos: a cardiac arrest in bed 3, a pediatric seizure in bed 7, a drunk driver with a BAC of .28 threatening to punch anyone who came near him, when Sarah found her. Elena, Commander Holland's awake. Really awake. And he's asking for you. Elena's heart stopped. What? He's talking. Alert and oriented. And the first thing he did when his daughter told him what happened in the ER, he asked for the nurse who saluted him. That's you. Elena looked at the chaos around her. Looked at Dr. Reeves, who was barking orders at the team trying to stabilize the cardiac patient. Looked at Brenda, who was watching her with narrowed eyes. I'm in the middle of a shift, Elena said. I'll cover you, Sarah said immediately. Go, this is important. Elena wanted to argue. Wanted to insist that duty came first, that patients needed her, that she couldn't just abandon her post. But Sarah was already steering her toward the door. And Dr. Reeves had glanced up and given a tiny nod, so Elena went. She felt like she was walking through water as she made her way to Commander Holland's room. Her hands were shaking. Her breath was short. This was ridiculous. He was just a patient. Just a veteran she'd helped stabilize. Just a man she'd never met before that day in the trauma bay. But he wasn't just anything. And they both knew it. Jessica met her outside the room, smiling with tears streaming down her face. He's been asking for you for the past hour. Wouldn't let me call you earlier because he wanted to make sure he was really lucid, really present. He didn't want to waste your time. That could never be a waste of time, Elena said. I know. Go on in. Elena took a breath, straightened her spine, and walked into the room. Commander Holland was sitting up in bed, bruised and battered but unmistakably alert. His gray eyes, sharp and clear despite the pain medication, tracked her movement the moment she entered. And then, slowly, he tried to lift his hand in a salute. Don't, Elena said quickly, moving to his bedside. Sir, you're injured. You don't need to. I do. His voice rough from the intubation but strong. Certain. You stood for me when I couldn't stand. The least I can do is return the honor. His hand rose, trembling with effort, forming a salute that was shaky but unmistakably real. And Elena standing there in her civilian scrubs, in a hospital that didn't understand. In front of a man who'd given everything snapped to attention and returned it. For a moment, that room was transformed. It wasn't a hospital anymore. It wasn't civilian life. It was two warriors recognizing each other, honoring each other, acknowledging the bond that transcended rank and time and the invisible wounds they both carried. Then Commander Holland lowered his hand. And Elena relaxed her stance, and they were just two people again. Thank you, he said softly. Not just for the salute. For seeing me. For remembering. Elena's vision blurred. How could I forget, sir? I wore the same uniform. Maybe different branch, different rank, different wars. But the same uniform. The same oath. The same commitment. Navy Nurse Corps? Yes, sir. 8 years. 2 deployments to Afghanistan. Got out 3 months ago. Commander Holland nodded slowly. Hard transition. The hardest. People don't understand. No, sir. They don't. But you did something yesterday that reminded me why I served. He continued. You honored tradition in a world that's forgotten what tradition means. You showed respect in a place where respect has become optional. And you did it knowing it might cost you. That takes courage, Corporal. How did your bearing, your precision, the way you moved in that trauma bay. I was barely conscious, but I knew you'd served. And I knew you were honoring something bigger than both of us. They talked for 20 minutes. Shared stories. Compared deployments. laughed over the absurdities of military bureaucracy, and cried over the brothers and sisters they'd lost. Commander Holland told her about his struggles with PTSD, his fight to find purpose in retirement, his gratitude for the VA and the therapists who'd helped him rebuild his life. "It's lonely sometimes," he admitted, "being a veteran in a world that's moved on. People say thank you for your service and it's nice. But it's also hollow. Because they don't really want to know. Don't really want to hear about the cost, the sacrifice, the nightmares that don't stop just because the deployment ended." "I know," Elena whispered. "I know exactly what you mean. But yesterday, you showed me that not everyone's forgotten. That the next generation of veterans, people like you, you're carrying the torch forward. You're remembering for all of us. And that..." His voice broke. "That gives me hope." Elena couldn't speak. Could barely breathe. She just nodded, gripping his hand, feeling the weight of every veteran who'd ever felt invisible. Every service member who'd wondered if their sacrifice mattered. Every warrior who'd come home to a world that didn't understand. "You're going to face resistance," Commander Holland said after a moment. "People are going to tell you to stop being so military, to blend in, to act like everyone else. Don't listen to them. The world needs people who remember how to honor things, who understand that respect and tradition and duty aren't old-fashioned concepts. They're the foundation everything else is built on." "I'll try, sir." "You'll succeed. Because you have something they don't have. You have purpose. And once you've found your purpose, you never lose it. It just evolves." They talked for a while longer before Elena finally forced herself to leave. She walked out of that room feeling lighter than she had in months. Feeling seen. Feeling understood. Feeling like maybe, just maybe, she belonged somewhere after all. The story spread through the hospital like wildfire. By the end of Elena's shift, everyone knew that Commander Holland had woken up specifically asking for her. That he'd saluted her. That they'd stood there in his room. Two veterans acknowledging each other, honoring each other, reminding everyone watching what true respect looked like. Opinions were split. Some people thought it was beautiful, moving, a reminder of what mattered. Others thought it was inappropriate, too emotional. Proof that military personnel couldn't separate personal feelings from professional duties. But Elena didn't care anymore what the naysayers thought. Because when she walked into the A for her shift the next morning, she found something waiting at the nurse's station. A folded American flag in a shadow box, accompanied by a note written in shaky but determined handwriting. "Corporal Vasquez." This flag flew over Fallujah during the Battle of Phantom Fury. It's seen the best and worst of humanity. It's been carried by warriors and honored by heroes. Now it's yours. Not because you earned it in combat, but because you earned it in service. You reminded an old Marine that his life still has value. That his service still matters. That someone still remembers. That's worth more than any medal. Semper Fi. Commander James R. Holland, USMC, Ret. Elena stood there, holding that flag, tears streaming down her face, while the entire EA fell silent around her. And this time, when Brenda approached ready with some cutting remark, some reminder to stay professional, she stopped, looked at the flag, looked at Elena's face, and walked away without saying a word. Dr. Reeves appeared a moment later, studied the shadow box, read the note, then looked at Elena with something that might have been respect. "Keep doing what you're doing, Vasquez," he said quietly. "We need more of it around here." The flag found a place of honor at the nurse's station. Commander Holland recovered fully and was discharged 2 weeks later, walking out with his daughter, stopping to shake Elena's hand one last time. "You saved my life twice," he told her. "Once in that trauma bay, and once with that salute. Don't ever stop being who you are." Elena couldn't, because she'd learned something crucial in those weeks. The military had taught her to serve, to honor, to remember. But civilian life was teaching her that those values weren't confined to the battlefield. They belonged everywhere. In hospitals and classrooms and offices and homes. In every interaction where respect mattered, where tradition had meaning, where duty called. She was still a Marine, not in title but in spirit. Still a nurse who understood that healing wasn't just about bodies but about souls. Still a warrior who knew that some battles were fought with medicine and compassion, instead of weapons and courage, and she would keep fighting those battles. Keep honoring those who served. Keep standing at attention whenever duty demanded, regardless of who mocked her, who dismissed her, who told her to blend in. Because warriors don't blend in. They stand out. They stand tall. And they stand for something. 3 months later, Sacred Heart Medical Center started a new program, Veterans Support Initiative, designed to train civilian healthcare workers on the unique needs of military patients. Elena headed it up with full support from administration and a grant from a grateful Commander Holland, who'd made it his personal mission to ensure no veteran felt invisible in a hospital again. The flag still hangs at the nurses' station. A reminder, a symbol, a promise that in this place, service is remembered, respect is honored, and warriors take care of their own. Stories like this remind us that respect costs nothing but means everything. If you've ever served or know someone who has, drop a comment below sharing their story. These warriors deserve to be remembered. And if this story moved you, if it made you think about the veterans in your own life, hit that like button. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because in a world that's quick to forget, we need to be the ones who remember. We need to be the ones who still know how to stand at attention when duty calls. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.